In other 1980s news, as reported by comicbook.com, a Transformers event is coming to theaters. Yeah.
That's my
Autobots roll out. In addition to the many great films and songs turning 40 this year, this just crept up on me. I didn't realize this, but the animated Transformers is celebrating the milestone as well. And in connection with that anniversary, Hasbro has a special treat in store for longtime Transformer fans. Are you a longtime Transformer fan or a long ago Transformer fan?
No.
Okay,
As an
on.
old, it's not a don't like Transformers. It's a I was an older Gen Xer, and it was kind of it was the later end of Gen X that got into that. So what was it 83, 84? We just said 40 years, 84.
Yeah, 84. Yeah.
Right. So I was junior in high school, something like that, sophomore in high school. I moved on to computers by then, and so I was programming computers. I wasn't watching cartoons as much, but appreciation for Transformers and watched plenty of it, but it's not like I collect them or anything. So yeah, I know what a big deal it is to have these voice talent together again.
Yeah, what you're referring to is not only they're going to show the first 4 episodes in theater, but and it's going to be, certainly it's going to be throughout the U.S. and UK and other places throughout the country. But for the first episode with the pilot, they're actually going to do a split screen where on part of the screen you're going to see the table read that includes the original voice actors. That's awesome. That is pretty cool. Yeah, I dig.
For anybody that's a fan of anything, seeing how the sausage is made can be so fun to go, oh, I've only ever seen it this way. And now like you turn and look at, behind the stage and find out the people working on it. And it's, like I said, not being a super fan of Transformers, I can definitely appreciate what this is going to mean to people who are.
Yeah. Yeah. And not like real sausage though, right? We've talked about this before. It's a horrible metaphor.
The metaphorical sausage. Yes.
Don't want a general. All right. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, not only that, like as I mentioned, after the pilot episode, you're going to be able to see that the second, third, and fourth episodes without the benefit of the table read, but you'll be able to. Let me turn this off. Be able to see the second, third, and fourth episodes without being able to see those table reads. But hey, what are you going to do? It's still going to be pretty.
Yeah.
According to the official press release, they write, quote, the Transformers animated series catapulted the imagination of fans of all ages, except unless you were John's age or older, when it premiered in 1984.
Most ages.
Introducing a timeless battle between good and evil, fueled by action and adventure. Ask any longtime fan, and they could probably tell you where they were when they first heard Optimus Prime's iconic phrase, Autobots, roll out. Roll out. That was a pretty good Peter Cullen, I think. But anyway, fans who go to see this are also going to... I do. I'm the only person who don't. Someone's got it. Fans who see this are also going to get a sneak peek of the animated series Transformers Earthspark during the event. Tickets for Transformers 40th anniversary event are on sale now. And I didn't realize, look, that story comes out. So like we do, every week we see one story. So we say, well, this makes me curious about this other thing. So you start digging in. So much Transformers is happening this year. Of course, probably because it's the anniversary.
Yeah. I have to interject in here, say, you had to talk about how good your impression was. That's what Kat would have done. She'd have went, oh, that's great. And so I missed on the beat. I didn't compliment you. You had to compliment yourself. It's just a missing cog.
I see. So I did the Kat role. You were able to maintain your own role. But at other times you're going to do both too, and then I could just be me and vice versa.
We have to hand off. Yeah, we have to hand off. Do our best.
Yeah. Darth Baca says, I'm a longtime Transformer fan. And Darth gives a thumbs up. Thumbs up emoji, which we're going to talk about a little later. That might be offensive to some people. I don't know. Younger people.
Yeah, passive-aggressive. Boomer.
And Miss So says, totally understand, John. My brother and I were still in elementary school when the cartoon came out. That was the age range it was aimed at.
Oh, yep. And a little older. Yeah. I think a lot. Was it mostly aimed at boys, like a He-Man was?
Yeah,
I just think cars and helicopters are probably aimed. I'm not saying we're going to box it off and require it, but I feel like that show was aimed at young boys because it was robots and fighting and cars and stuff. So I always assumed it was.
Yeah, I'm not sure why you're bringing that up at all, though. But yeah,
because Miss So said they were young and they watched it, so there you go.
Yeah, and of course the fact that it's aimed at anything doesn't mean that other people don't like it, but you know that.
No,
right? Of course, obviously.
Yeah, and Kat would have mentioned that, so I brought it up.
Yeah. Yeah, Kat would have explained that her brother watched it.
See?
And then she would have talked about her brother, who's not on the show, Kat. Want your stories. Sorry, that was a little passive aggressive. Hey,
It's okay.
but my,
Thumbs up.
my
It's all
point
good.
is, thumbs all the way up.
I'm starting to get it.
So my point was going to be that there's a whole lot of the Transformers stuff out there coming this year during the 40th anniversary, including. Okay. So this is what we got to do, everybody. Right? Tomorrow, the trailer for Transformers 1 is coming out, but this podcast episode is going to air Monday. So
Okay.
I'm probably gonna leave this all on the show.
yeah,
I'm probably
yeah.
I'll leave this all on the
Of
show.
course. Why edit this
But-
out if it doesn't make sense?
But I do all that work to leave this stuff in.
Yeah.
But we don't want to seem like we missed a scoop. We're talking about Transformers, right? So it will be dumb or seem like, journalistic negligence that this comes out on Monday. We didn't talk about a thing that just happened 2 days ago or 3 days ago. So let's pretend we just saw.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
No one's going to accuse us of journalistic anything. Don't worry. You're going to be okay. It's not a real concern you should have, but I get the angle you're coming from.
We're hoping they throw journalistic anything. You're right.
Yeah,
journalistic shitheads would we take it?
Right. Actually, journalistic negligence would be a compliment because at least they're acknowledging our
Yes.
journalistic
Right.
qualities that are poor.
Our response would be thank you. Thank you.
That we appreciate that.
Right. So I'm going to
Always
say it
serve
like
as a
this.
bad example.
So, hey, just last week, the trailer for the forthcoming animated Transformers movie, Transformers 1, premiered. What did you think about the trailer, John?
Well, it came out on Thursday, and I couldn't wait to see it, and it was everything I hoped it would have been.
Me too. Lots of robots and things changing. And cars and things.
All safe bets.
And that one twist. I can't wait to see how that works out.
That was groundbreaking. I can't imagine what they're going to do with that.
So, look, I didn't know this movie was coming, but it's an animated prequel to the Transformers that we know, the canon that we're familiar with. What's a little confusing to me is it seems that even though this is animated and it's animated in a computer, it's not traditional cartoons like the TV show was. In fact, Lucasfilm is the one who did the animation. They're the ones who do the special effects for the CG for the movies, the Michael Bay films, and those spin-offs, etc. It's a little confusing to me because it seems like this is a prequel to the films, not the cartoons necessarily, based on what I'm reading.
Oh, to the Michael Bay film. So an animated prequel to those. Yeah, I mean, you know what we haven't seen in Michael Bay's films is any sort of origin story. We know the origin story with the Allspark and the war that took place but we don't. Everything takes place after that. We saw that in the cartoons, I guess, both in movies and in flashbacks, but not in the Michael Bay films. They tell us when they get here, but we don't see it.
Yeah, and look, I have a problem with those films. The first one was almost great. There's so many things where I was like, why did they do this? And I did a little reading about it, and it turns out Steven Spielberg, who produced them, who's the executive producer on these films, which shocks me. But he's the one who hired Michael Bay to do it. But Spielberg the first film said, you know what this should be? Let's keep it simple. It should be a story about a boy and his car. It was going to be the boy and Bumblebee. If we can focus on that relationship developing through the arc of this, we'll be good. It'll have a heart and all this. Michael Bay gets involved and wants to make these, commentary about war and all this other stuff. So, and Michael Bay wanted to make even more aggressive film than that, apparently, but he then visited the Hasbro offices somewhere in the Northeast, I think. And he had a change of heart. So he did soften it and bring it more closely aligned with what we were familiar with. But Spielberg, I think, had it right. The cartoons had some kind of heart to it that first movie didn't. And subsequently, they just kept going further and further away from anything that resembled a soul, heart, or soul.
Yeah. There's something to be said. I know people that in the day cried about a cartoon robot dying.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, more than a couple people. I mean, there was a heart to it. And like you said, with the first film, there was even a standalone Bumblebee film a little bit later that kind of did that again. But more often than not, I haven't seen the recent ones, but I see the trailers and it's 800 robots turn into 800, rhinos and whatever monsters they turn into, and sometimes cars and sometimes fish. And it's chaos on the screen that it's digital noise that I'm like, well, in between there is their story. I haven't seen the more recent ones, but the early one, I would tend to agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, which is a bummer. But you know what's interesting is we talked about how much we loved Godzilla X Kong. I don't know how you call it. But the latest Godzilla film. And it was giant monsters fighting giant monsters. And there was something about the way they presented it where it worked. But these Transformers movies, which are, and maybe it's because they're mechanical, they're not organic, but it doesn't work on the same way.
Any kaiju movie where you take time out of the story to perform dental surgery on a giant monkey, it's clearly slowing down and giving you a beat to get to know these people.
That's like the save the cat moment.
It's a thing that literally happened. That Kong had a sore tooth, and so he came through the portal to lay down on a mountain, so a guy with a helicopter and a crane could pull a tooth. And put a titanium one in for him. But it had a baby Kong. It had those little beats that weren't about the people. There was a small roster of monsters that you got to know a little bit in there. It's that same kind of the good guy, get to know them, root for them kind of thing. That when it's a war movie, it's harder to do. You're rooting for the side, not for the individual, which I think Godzilla X Kong did pretty well.
That's interesting. Yeah, in that sense, there was a more human sort of, and look, gorillas are very similar to us in many ways, including the way they socialize. So there was a more relatable, smaller feeling, personal type story.
Yep.
Anyway, so this is what they say. This is described as a quote origin story set on the planet Cybertron and will center on the relationship.
Awesome.
It will center on the relationship between a young Optimus Prime and a young Megatron. Oh boy. Anyway, it's going to be, I mean, it could be great. It could be great, but I don't know. It's going to be directed by Josh Cooley, who the only other directing credit he has is Toy Story 4, for which he won Best Animated Feature, at the Academy Awards.
I'm hoping that's a pull quote on the DVD cover. It says, "Oh boy, Will, 1980s now."
I mean, maybe after I see it, I feel differently, but right now, I don't know. Anyway, but it also includes just a bevy of a veritable bevy of talent, but not Chris Pratt. But that said, they do have a Marvel superhero actor. Chris Hemsworth is playing Orion Pax / Optimus Prime. So I guess being an origin story, he is Orion. Somebody knows more about Transformers that's on here than we do. Becomes Optimus Prime. But you got Brian Tyree Henry plays D16, who I think becomes Megatron based on this. Scarlett Johansson is Alita 1. Keegan-Michael Key is B127, who is Bumblebee ultimately. John Hamm as Sentinel Prime and Lawrence Fishburne as Alpha Trion. It turns out
some good voices in there.
Yeah, and it turns out I was first gonna be kind of shit on this because so many times, because I have friends that are voice actors, they go to names to voice things, and that Chris Pratt thing, as drives me crazy because he's just himself all the time. But a lot of these folks, obviously they're on-screen actors, but they've voiced many things at this point. But Chris Hemsworth, it turns out it's his first job animating or voicing an animated character, and he only joined it after he was impressed with the screenplay. So, hopefully that means something.
Okay.
And unlike the other Chris, whose name I invoked just a moment ago, he is, according to this, he's made an effort not to use his own speaking voice for Optimus Prime. So,
the Hemsworth has. Okay.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yes.
Right.
So he's
right.
not. He's
put in a little effort.
Yes. Come on. In contrast, though, Key, it turns out, at the request of the director, stayed closer to his regular speaking voice for Bumblebee. I can see that. I really like Key, Keegan-Michael Key. Anyway, and I see in the comments, Darth Baca says that it was going to be a standalone movie. But Darth, check this out, because according to the producer last June, Lorenzo Di Bonaventuris, he said that the story will progress over 3 movies and will depict the characters' evolution into their live-action counterparts. This is where I was saying I got confused.
What?
So it's going to be an animated thing, and this is the guy who's been producing the Transformers movies.
Yeah.
So the animated prequel that we're going to see, we're going to see them over the course of 3 movies become ultimately the Optimus Prime that's voiced by Peter Cullen in the first Michael Bay film. So in theory, we could watch those 3 animated ones and then start watching the live-action Terminators.
The live action
Whatever.
Terminators?
No, the live action
That's
Transformers.
I would much prefer watching the Terminators,
Yes.
quite frankly.
I know that about you. It's true. And if you're worried that Hemsworth sounds nothing like Peter Cullen, who's got that such a perfect, wonderful, sultry voice. Unfortunately,
Buttery. Yeah.
he's cursed in a sense because I hear him. He's like he does a voice on the Invincible cartoon. It's Peter Cullen. I mean, it's Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
But the producer went on to explain that Hemsworth's depiction will grow into the leader depicted in the previous installments, stating that the transition will show Hemsworth's voice transform to Peter Cullen's in a way that will make sense within the story. You'll be like, right. I'm a young Optimus Prime, and I want to be a leader, and I've been studying hard to become. I mean, that's the flash forward. Anyway, it's scheduled to come out this year in September. There you go. Right.
All right.
Oh, Lynn says journalistic shitheads band name called it. All right, you could have that. You could have it.
It's not bad.
And I think Nick's pointing out the problem with the Transformers films. The humor just became more and more juvenile. Yeah, it was like sight gags. I stopped watching them at some point.
So Miss So is asking, random question, what's on your hat? Mini tornadoes? Croissants? Can't tell.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
I can't either.
Yeah.
Let's get a close-up.
Zoom me in. We'll make it happen.
Yeah,
even you know what they probably are.
Yeah, now we can. It's a CX-40.
There you go. It's a whole bunch of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. Not croissants or tornadoes. Croissant Tornado, another great band name.
Called it. Oh, see, Darth says Orion Pax gets damaged and Alpha Trion rebuilds him and gives him the new name Optimus Prime. See there, thank you. I knew you would know.
See there?
Thanks,
we knew someone would know. Yeah.
And also, as Darth mentioned, yes, per Deadline and other Transformers news, the Transformers G.I. Joe crossover movie has been greenlit. So after being teased, and look, we didn't. Neither you or I have watched the last film, Transformers: Rise of the Beast.
That's right.
But
that's right.
Apparently, this was teased in a post-credit scene that shows, they introduced that the world of G.I. Joe exists and that they want to play a role and they're there to help, that sort of thing.
So they showed like a robot guy interacting with the G.I. Joe guy, and now we know they're together in the same universe?
Sort of. Not exactly. So the actor who was sort of the lead in the whole film, and again, I didn't see it, but I know this actor, Anthony Ramos, who's in Hamilton. I've only seen him in Hamilton. He's in a meeting with another character. I think it's Michael Kelly who plays him, and he says, hey, if you're looking we'd love to have you a part of our organization. Gives him a business card, and then he opens a secret door and goes inside this room and a little thing, and then the kid looks out, and he's like this computers and different stuff I should probably recognize from G.I. Joe. And then finally, Anthony looks at the card and it says G.I. Joe on it, and then
Oh, not Avengers Initiative. It's G.I. Joe. Got it.
No, yeah,
that's the same kind of setup almost.
Thing,
yeah, we're forming an organization.
Yeah. The idea to mix these two worlds together actually began in the 1980s in the Marvel published comics that saw these two worlds merge. Just like the other films that we talked about, Steven Spielberg's also going to be the executive producer, and normally that gives me great hope for films, but because of my great disappointment with most of the Transformers movies, I don't know. I don't know if that matters.
How do their abilities complement each other? I mean, do the G.I. Joes just drive the Transformers?
Like, I don't need you in there, dude.
No, really. This. It's like, I can move around on my own, and I'm a giant robot with weaponry, and you're a little meat sack that has a little pistol. Pop, pop, pop. I mean, how are you helping, really? Other than get a lube job or something,
Whoa.
It's not a euphemism. They literally need a lube job.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like an odd, I don't know. It's an odd complementary pairing of franchises to me. Remains to be seen.
Optimus is feeling tense. You know what to do.
I've got the grease gun, Optimus. Bend over.
Honestly, I was racking my brain to think of some kind of clever allusion to something, but I know so little about cars that I couldn't. And then you just say bend over. Okay.
Right in the catalytic converter.
There you go. All right. So yeah, you got me thinking though. Talking about how meat sacks.
Subtlety is not one of my fortes.
You probably tamp it down when cat's around. So it forces you to be a little more, like music in the 1980s, radio music. You got to be clever about these things. But you got me thinking. You're talking about meat sacks inside these things. If we're talking about the origins of Transformers and a prequel, it would be great to see the first time a human climbed inside of one, right? And oh shit,
Shredded.
I got to be more careful. Somehow I got to transform around these people. Something that
Yeah.
I'd like to see that.
I tried to think about that,
Yeah.
but it'd be messy.
Anyway, I was curious that they're even going so far with the Transformers because, again, I felt like it was a great brand with potential that they kind of screwed up. But it turns out that Rise of the Beast made $430 million last year, which was enough for it to best the other big franchise film of last summer, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
Damn it, Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah, that's right.
So somehow her fault.
Yes, that's why we're getting this. All right, hey, that was 1980s.